Networking works if you work your network properly. I'm glad to have Glenda Shawley with us in the session here today. Good afternoon, Glenda. How are you?
Good afternoon, Amit. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing fine. Thank you very much. Let's get straight into it. Thank you for being in part of the session. So tell us a bit about your business, Glenda, and what kind of service you provide.
So we're Fabulous Networking. We like to say that we do what it says on the tin. We have a mixture of online and in-person networking through London, Surrey, and Hampshire.
Brilliant. Love the sound of fabulous networking. And I suppose networking has kind of kicked in quite strongly into a lot of business owners' diary as a way of expanding the business. But the word networking is such a big word. From your experience, how would you describe or define networking?
I think it is all about connection and building relationships with people for
Mm,
your mutual benefit. It's not just about sales, although, if you get the right network with the right people, the sales will come. But actually, it's all the support, the inspiration, the learning, the ability to test ideas out that is
mm.
such a valuable part of networking.
Almost like a community that you're forming, isn't it?
We describe ourselves as a community rather than a business or organization. Community has much greater feeling of warmth, and that's something that's important to us.
Yeah, you mentioned warmth earlier on when you were speaking. You
Mm.
said your networking group is driven by some values. Um, from your perspective, and to the people that are listening to this video podcast right now, what would you say are maybe the top three errors that people make when they go networking, which often results in networking not working for them?
Mm. I think the mistakes that they tend to make are primarily coming on too strong. So they come on with an intention of selling. And I think inexperienced networkers often think that the first thing they have to do is promote their businesses. No, it's not. It's about building relationships. And so I think it's really important to make it about the other people as much as it is about you. So actually listening to people and being open with people, making it, as you were saying earlier, a conversation. That's the important thing to build the relationships. And then to make sure that you speak to and are supportive of new people coming into networking.
Mm.
Everybody is nervous when they start networking. It's not just you, but it's something, some people appear really confident. They're not when they first start,
Yeah.
very often. And they will really appreciate somebody giving them a helping hand and introducing them to people and easing them in helpfully. So I think that's really important too.
So really easing people in, understanding that everybody's there almost for the same reason,
Yeah.
and not to come across too strongly. At,
Not, yes, it's the sales will come, but very few sales are made on the first point of contact. They take much, much longer than that.
yeah.
And to think that nobody goes networking to buy.
Mm.
Uh,
Very good point.
the good networkers go to build support, to build their community, to build their contacts. And eventually, when people need what they want, or they've got a contact who needs what they want, they will refer or they will buy. But it takes time, and you've got to give it that time.
Yeah, it does take time. Ultimately, Rome wasn't built in a day. Relationships take a while to build. So we've got to invest in those. So building relations is a strong part of business and life as a whole. And you're in the business of building relationships. What advice would you give to people um, to make relation or build relationships from a business sense?
I would say be interested and curious about other people. So,
Mhm.
find out about them, ask them questions, and really listen to the answers. And try and file those answers so that you can refer to them again in time to come. Um, Make sure that a conversation is two-way, and don't expect the relationship to be built in formal networking meetings.
Mm.
It's really important to follow up and have those one-to-ones with people outside of the formal networking community. And you can do that by following up with people on social media as well. I think when you support other people that you've met, that really is contributing towards building the relationship. It doesn't have to be all face to face or all on talking to each other. It can be those little things that we do.
Mm.
And
And that's the
other
good
things
thing.
that, go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say other things we can do is when we hear of something that we think somebody we've met will be interested in, it might be an opportunity. It might be that we've read an article. It might be that we hear a snippet in the news. Just sending it to them and saying, "I thought of when I saw this, I thought of you."
Mm.
It can be hugely beneficial in terms of building relationships to do those little things.
It sounds so refreshing and absolutely right. So listening out to the person you're talking to, really taking interest, being curious, asking questions, and then maybe following up or creating rapport based on what you hear, based on what you
Absolutely.
spoke about.
Yeah.
And as you touched on, we live in an electronic age, no doubt, and probably it's going beyond that now with the way things are moving. And
Yes.
just the platforms to keep in touch, like whether it's talking on social media platforms or etc.
The ones that are working best for us at the moment are LinkedIn and Instagram. Facebook, maybe. What I have found this week is that a lot of women are coming away from X, Twitter as it once was. I'm not so sure about the men. Maybe people are will take judgment, and who knows where we're going to go with Threads.
Yeah.
But I would say Instagram and LinkedIn is absolutely, I think anybody in business and in a professional place needs to be on LinkedIn and needs to be in there, at least once a week, and supporting other people through that, not just promoting ourselves, but using it to build those relationships.
Absolutely right. Makes sense. Looking one step ahead, well, actually, before we go, let's take one step back into where we are right now. So you've got face-to-face networking and kind of online networking.
Yes. So we have a whole mix of offer, and some of that has come about because of the pandemic. But we have in-person networking in a number of places. We've got Farnham, Fleet, Ealing, Otterbourne, and there's one that's missing. Sunningdale is coming back shortly. So we've got a number of in-person meetings. Then we have 3 regular online full-length networking. When I talk about full length, I mean 90 minutes to 2 hours. And we every Monday between 1:30 and 2:15 we have our biz chat, which is a speedy focused session. It's not speed networking, it's more relaxed than that. But that's a mix of 3 conversations with other people and a mini education slot, 5 minutes of something to think about in your business.
Brilliant.
And then we have a book club. So, book club allows us to network with people in a different way, with a different focus. But we do get to know people like that. And we do get it done days as well, because many of our members are sole traders working from home. Very easy to keep putting things off. And sometimes we just need somebody who's going to say, get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important. Now, going back to the face-to-face and online networking facilities or platforms you have, plenty of people out there thinking, what should I do? Should I go to face-to-face ones? Should I go to online ones? From your opinion, what would you say are the key difference, apart from the obvious, what would you say are the key differences in those 2 platforms and which one works best?
I think both can work equally well if you make sure that you do the follow-ups and that you pay attention and you participate. It's often easier face-to-face to choose what you do. So you can choose who you talk to. You can extricate yourself from a conversation when you've had enough. You choose who those individual conversations are with. Whereas online, you might be put into a breakout room with somebody that perhaps you wouldn't have chosen to speak to.
Right.
I think people should see that as an opportunity. And I think, if you're put in a room with somebody you wouldn't automatically gravitate towards, that's when the curiosity needs to come in, and you need to think, let's find out what we have in common and how we can support each other. So really use it to find out about those people and don't think, this is a waste of time. Because actually, when we're networking, we're not talking to the people in the room. Yes, of course we are, but we're also talking to all their contacts outside as well. And so we need those relationships that will help them to trust us enough to refer their contacts to us.
And that's such an important point you make, and so refreshing in that we're not just talking to them, we're talking to all their contacts. So the building of trust is so important in that sphere.
I think that's also important when people are looking at networking to go to as well. You know, there are people who will look and say, well, if there's not 50 people in the room, it's not worth my while going to. But actually, if there are 50 people in the room, but you only get to speak to 6 of them, you might as well be at a meeting with 6 people, all of whom you get to know. You know, I think people need to look at it like that and think about what kind of people are they going to meet and what opportunities are there going to be to build relationships with those people. And also, how many people do you need to know to reach the number of customers that you want? You know, if you're a business where you're selling your personal time, there's only a limited amount of that you've got. And so you might not need masses of customers, you just need some really good ones.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and it's a case of either going kind of narrow and deep, or staying wide and shallow. And often going narrow and deep is something that works for most people. You mentioned a really important point around you're not kind of working with the people in the room, you're going and meeting people outside the room.
Yeah.
You've also shared what builds good relationships, and some important points you mentioned there about listening, something which is I think principle number 3 of the book written by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So it's going to be is a good one. So looking forward, I mean, how would you describe the future of networking, or what's your ideas or thoughts around the future of networking over the next 2 or 3 years?
I mean, networking has certainly changed through the pandemic, and people are not necessarily attending as regularly as they did. But I still think it's important, but I think it might become more informal, more unstructured, and people dropping in a little bit more, and possibly using social media to keep the contacts rather than seeing people, the same people in the room every month. It might well be that you meet people and you go, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, but for the rest of the time you're keeping in touch on social media. I think there's also a move towards networking communities now delivering more in terms of their offer. So things like training, inspirational events, that actual support for small businesses. I think that's going to be increasingly
to kind of become more holistic rather than just pure networking.
Yes.
That
I wish I had the crystal ball and knew,
yeah,
but that's my gut feeling about it.
Yeah, well, hey, look, you're clearly one of the people that kind of spearheading the industry by having your own networking organization, and the kind of things that you choose are basically shaping the whole venture for most people.
For me, it's very important to take the members with me, though. So, you know, I don't sit in my ivory tower in Ealing thinking, what are we going to do? I come up with ideas, but I will often ask the members. So the Biz Chat, for instance, is something that came out of a meeting that we had with a couple of members saying they'd really like to have something that was in the same time, same place every week that they could drop into. And so that's you know, what emerged.
And almost it's a lunchtime facility. Lunchtime
is 1:30 to 2:15, and people are welcome to bring their lunch. So one of the things that I've noticed is that people do seem to be getting busier, and making time for networking seems to be something that they find more of a challenge. So that was one of the solutions there, that, you know, if you are struggling, because I think everybody does need to network if they're in business, they need to increase the number of people that they know, then a 45-minute slot where you can actually have your lunch as well, surely everybody can find that, if not every week, you know, a couple of times a month maybe.
Yeah,
and
that's networking is working ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're working when you're networking.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, Glenda, thank you so much for your time and being so generous with sharing, you know, what's driven your success and what can drive other people's success in networking. It's so refreshing to hear. And hopefully the people who'll be listening to this video podcast have got some good learnings as well. Glenda, thank you very much for your time. You've been fabulous. And hopefully maybe pop along to one of your networking events and seeing how
Please do. I'll drop you a line with the link to see what we've got going on.
Smashing stuff. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.